remember what it was something to do with All Stars Racing, I think, and they were putting. Oh, that was it. They were doing a bunch of screenshots to put out, and like the press release and a bunch of screenshots. So I said, look, can I see it in advance? And they're like, yeah, sure, because you know what generally happens. Somebody's missed something, and lo and behold. I go through everything. It's like I looked at the screenshots because they never check the screenshot. They just say, "Give me screenshots."
Yeah.
And Ryu, whatever his name is, from Shenmue, he was visible clearly in one of the screenshots, and we hadn't announced him yet, and we were building up to do a big reveal. So I'm just like, and from that point on, they just went, "Oh, let's just run it past Kevin from now on."
Hey guys, it's Jamie J. Eggman, and you're listening to the Opinion Zone. I do have a snoring dog in the background, so don't be overwhelmed if you hear that. That isn't me. That would not make sense because I'm talking at the same time. Anyway, thank you for listening. I'm starting a new series today, and I wanted to basically tell you a bit about it before we go straight into it. It's called Sonic Boomers, and basically it's an opportunity for me to chat to friends and peers and just people I've known on the Sonic community who were around all the way back to when I started being interested in the online Sonic fandom. We're talking like before Shadow the Hedgehog came out on the GameCube and the PlayStation 2, like way back, and it's just an opportunity to talk about them, how they got interested in Sonic, what made them join the online community and become, like, let's be honest, one of the trailblazers, because a lot of these people were doing this stuff for the first time because it didn't exist before then, and what it's led to in their lives professionally and personally, and how they got to the point they're at now. Why am I calling it Sonic Boomers? One, because I appreciate a Sonic pun, and two, because the fact that I've noticed that anyone who approaches the age of 30 in the online Sonic community is basically considered a boomer. Don't agree with it, but it's definitely an experience I've been noticing. So that's why I'm calling it that. The first person we're talking to today is the delightful Kevin Eva. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kevin started one of the first Sonic fan sites, Sonic Rex, which was a big name in its heyday, and started one of the first Sonic podcasts, Radio Redux. And also, and this is what I found one of the most interesting parts of this chat, was he was one of the first people who went from being a Sonic fan to working professionally for Sega, because he did get a job working for Sega Europe as a community manager for Sonic, which was crazy. Like, it just wasn't, it didn't seem so, like now you see it all the time where people are crossing the boundaries, but like back then he was one of the first. So we go into that. What were the high points? What were the low points? What were the struggles of doing something like that and breaking new ground in terms of what all that meant? So I do really hope you guys enjoy this chat. I really enjoyed the experience of getting to talk to my friend. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and at the end we'll go through his socials, so make sure you do check him out on all of those. And if you do like it as you're listening, remember at any point you can go to iTunes and give us 5 stars. Just a suggestion, but let's go and listen to the interview. Looking back, it's like that really was it really does feel like an era of time. That's part, like, that is a defined era with a beginning and an end.
It was an era of community there, which then stopped. So it just stopped. It didn't fade away. It stopped. that was it. It was weird.
So, I mean, I know when it started for me. For me, I sort of came in around, I want to say, specifically the why sticks in my head, around Shadow the Hedgehog. That's when I started being more invested in all this community stuff. And I didn't do anything actively myself until Sonic 06. I think that's sort of around the time But Sonic Rex was before that, but also I didn't realize that Sonic Rex was a part of Kev's Kingdom.
Oh yeah, I had to leave the domain after about 15 years. Not that long ago, I had to give it up in the end. I can't afford this.
What was Kev's Kingdom? Was it just a blog?
Kev's Kingdom /GeoCities/track/8493 because it was the one place on GeoCities where I could actually find a spot. It was just a place. It was a bit like LMC now in that it was like a little like hub where I taught myself HTML, and the site just had a bunch of stuff. Version 1, you can see it on the LMC history thing. It's absolutely awful, absolutely horrendous. It's but little, however young it was me back in 1996, 7. So yeah, 13, 14-year-old me who was just doing stuff on the computer because the internet was a thing then and came along. It was like, oh wow, you can create stuff on the internet and people can go there. And it was just a collection of things, like various sections, like the Barrel of Monkeys, which was just a whole heap of just parody stuff and written articles and joke TV schedules and like a version of Midsummer Night's Dream, but in computer speak. So it was all like really stupid. It was a whole heap of stuff. There was Archangel, which is where the Archangel UK name came from, who was this really dark, horrible character who lived in a basement and told really dark, horrible tales about his encounters with various people and basically how he killed them.
I didn't realise it was that bad.
But it was always done in like a really sort of black humour way. And a bunch of other stuff, and then eventually, I kept it going, and it was just a place where friends hung out. And we just talked about our stuff, and it went to like version 7 or whatever it was. And I was at university and bored out of my skull in the equivalent of the library or the IT centre, late at night, and I do mean late at night, doing an all-nighter on 3D Studio Max because I couldn't do it. I was trying to make some sort of car out of 3D, and I had no skill in it whatsoever. And I remembered Sonic, which sounds a bit weird, but my initial connection to Sonic was way back when with watching the cartoon on Channel 4. Really, more than anything.
My gosh, yes, I remember that. The early hours.
Yeah. In the early hours, like recording it, either being up really early or recording it on the VHS.
Yeah.
Before and then watching it after I did football practice, and it was. I had a Game Gear growing up. That's literally it from the Sega console. Was I had a Game Gear, so I had Sonic Triple Trouble, which I loved, and Sonic 2, which I hated, and the Game Gear version, horrible hang gliders, say no more.
Oh my gosh.
But I went on to... I was that bored, and I promised myself to do night, but I'd take a break, so I was looking up various things, and I looked up Zelda, and I think I got to like Zelda Power, or the equivalent of Zelda Power back then, and then I looked up Sonic, and then I got to Sonic Stadium. And it was at the time they were doing the Sonic Site Awards.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So the Sonic Side Awards 2004.
Yeah.
And I listened to a young Mr. Sven and Rory Jocelyn do like the awards show and then went through like the various things because I found it really amazing that this actual online community had developed involving Sonic, and it was so diverse. And that really grabbed me, and I started sort of taking note and going to all these sites. And Sonic Rex directly came about from the Sonic Site Awards, and it's because I went to the Sprite Comic Award for that year, and I looked at it and I thought it was crap. I really did. I thought I was looking at this and going, this isn't even any good. It's not funny. It's not with my limited Photoshop skills, I could do something better than that. And it's like that was the thing. I could do better than that. Oh dear. Thus the path was set.
That is very interesting to me because that very much is a similar story to how I got involved, which was that I saw content that was already out there. Then I saw some of it and was like, I don't think this is good enough. And I, for some reason in my head, was like, I could do that, and I could probably do it. Not to put any of the content that was already out there down, but it's just like, I just feel like there is a bar.
There's a gap higher. There. There's a chance to elevate this and make it better for the people that are clearly keen to read and watch and write about it.
Because I found something extra two things, but obviously it was one of them being the Sprite comics. Which you did for a long, like that. I remember that
a long time, because I mean that was the thing about that everyone took note of back in the day, was that you had the Fireball 20XL stuff, which was like 3 panel, 4 panel, that's it, and most of the panels were the same. And then you had Sonic Rex come along, which is like, okay, well, this is like 6 panels, 8 panels. It's like a feature-length story. There's stuff going on. There's a battle, and there's damage being done to the actual framework of the comic and stuff like that. There's from the big Ragnarok arc that happened. It was kind of crazy how much it happened. But SW was literally set up with the goal of winning the Sonic title. Within 2 years, I set myself the target. So it went on to went as a part of Kev's Kingdom, and then got spun off into its own thing, and it sort of swallowed its father whole.
And during that era, you already mentioned Archangel UK, which then became sort of your handle, AA UK. I guess more.
I needed one. It turned out I needed one, like I needed a OC.
This is the thing. I wanted to talk about this because that was very much an era where people didn't use their real, like, I mean, obviously if you knew people you would know, but like you had everyone had an alias, and in most cases those aliases would actually be tied to like their own character. It was like that was a rampant time for fan characters.
But people forget. I mean, people take the Mickey out of OCs and that nowadays, even though there's a lot of creators that still use OCs in very great ways, including some people of your association. But it's everyone had one. Everyone had one. And I don't remember ever seeing a Jamie one.
Well, I never had I had an alias, but I didn't have a character. So like I was always, I don't know why, but during that whole time I was very much known by Disco Ponies. But that wasn't tied to, for some reason I didn't have a humanoid pony like with a DJ set, like which is missed opportunity probably looking back. But it was very
bring back the pony show.
No, don't let that die.
I remember.
I'm glad not many people do. There's probably a lot of people even now, like you tell me their first name and it sort of springs a memory, but for a lot of them, if you mention their fan character name or the name they went by online that time, that would trigger more of a memory. I'd be like, oh yeah, so yeah.
I got in the habit a while back of just saying people's names. I think it was around about the time when I basically took AUK out the back of the barn and shot it as a name. And I just sort of like going like, when we're on stream and I'm doing when I'm Twitch streaming, it's like most of the time I will say Phil and Josh and John, and I won't say Vija, Earthheart, Turbo, or anything like that. I mean that's why I'm Kevin in this Discord call now. I'm Kevin brackets LMC, or I'm LMC Kevin wherever I go. It felt like that time had passed.
Yes.
For anonymity, because everyone knows anybody anyway. Everyone knows Markiplier's Mark Fishback. Everyone knows Jacksepticeye's real name is Sean. Everyone knows, so what's the point?
It's definitely an era that's ended, I think.
Yeah.
You mentioned there's some, but even now, my good friend known online as Sonic Pox, who's like this big
Poxy!
Yeah, Poxy, yeah. And I will always call him Poxy.
How's the university going?
Very well.
That's the thing that, honestly, about the community nowadays is the stuff I'm most engaged in. Bizarre. I'd love finding out how people are doing, like, professionally. I love that, the likes of Mark have been able to go on to do official stuff. I love the fact that, Dean Simon Lee is on the cusp of one raid away from becoming a massive YouTuber.
Yeah.
Streamer. There's just so many people that are in the industry now. It's great to see.
You did Sonic Rex? Oh, I can't not talk about Sonic Rex without talking about Radio Redux, though. Because
before you leave Rex, though, the weird thing about Rex is that there was this strange, like, decade and a half circle, which a snake which ate its own tail with Rex, because Rex used the Ritz sprites from back in the day, and Ritz goes by another name nowadays, his real name, which is Tyson Hess.
Ah, yes.
So there was this weird thing at SOS 16 where Sven introduced me to Tyson, and Tyson had no idea who I was, and I had no idea who Tyson was. It was super awkward. It was only after the fact that somebody mentioned, like, in passing, just like, oh, back when he did the Ritz stuff. I was like, no way. So you had this strange thing where I used something that Ritz created to get into, to start something, which then took me to Sega and back out of it again. And then something I created at Sega, he then brought to life in animation with the wanted posters and Generations.
Yeah.
So it was this strange thing of creator creates something, other person utilizes that to create something, they create something, the first person uses it to create something. And I just thought that was neat.
That is super neat, and I think it says a lot about, especially that era of the community, of how
So much depth, so much talent.
The amount of talent. I'm not saying there isn't. There is so much talent in the community, like, of the younger generation, obviously. But like, maybe it's because we didn't have social media in the same way, so I think it was a lot more condensed and focused to me. And it's just interesting to see those people, and everyone who was of clear talent in the Sonic community. I feel like everyone knew those people. You all knew each other in a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting.
And then just out of the woodwork somewhere, you'd find somebody else that you'd somehow missed. Well, and you'd just go, wow, A, how have I missed this person? And B, look at this.
A friend of mine who did content did a series at the very early stages of the Sonic show called Slingerland's Corner. Brad Flick, he did all this content with us, and then
big things,
and then he's like, he's working on Sonic Mania, and then I was looking through the credits of Sonic Mania, and then recognised another name, and he at a random point created one of the Sonic show theme tunes, and there's a complete disconnect. He's then doing stuff on Mania, and I'm like, it's just like. It's very pleasing. It's extremely pleasing. But while this is all going on, not only are you doing Sprites Comic, you're also doing Radio Redux, which, for me, it was very much a game changer in terms of Sonic media, fan media. Because there was online radio, and some of it was podcasted, but a lot of it was more, you can just download it if you find the right FTP server, and download it from that. FTP servers, I can't believe
Here is a treasure map. You have 20 minutes, but you have 20 minutes before the sun sets, you're not able to find anything. And you're eaten by the crocodiles or something.
And so Radio, and obviously I fell in love with Radio Redux as soon as I picked up, because it was that. You got to think, like, back then, this was it wasn't just new for the Sonic community, it was new for just entertainment, because podcasts was that was around the time that podcasts in a major way, like iTunes and stuff, that was around the same time when it was all kicking off. It was legitimately, and I know it's said this during Radio Redux, and it's easy to sort of just
you BS it a bit, but no, it legitimately was the very first Sonic related podcast on iTunes. It was legitimately, I think. I mean, the somewhere, but it been like the top, somewhere between the top 20 and 50 video game related podcasts that there were, full stop, on iTunes. It pushed a lot of boundaries in terms of what stuff you can do. I mean, you look at nowadays, obviously it's freaking cringeworthy, but even like Sonic X, not Sonic X, Chaotix X.
Yes.
That was, the whole idea of doing like a radio drama in the middle of stuff is now you've got like Sonic and Tails R, or whatever it's called, which does that and is a big thing. But yeah, Radio Redux, I just love the idea of, again, there was radio stuff out there, and I wasn't a part of any. I simply wasn't a part of any of those platforms, or really knew how to do that, and it wouldn't have worked for me broadcasting live. So I just recorded them and tried to make it a decent mix of music and news and discussion and the Sonic Rex / me trademark brand of irreverence, and try to mix it in a way, try to be open and accessible, which is why we had things like Q&A UK or the Magnificent Seven with Demix. Just have regular features that were a part of that people could get involved in, and that you didn't know where it was going to go.
But like just doing things like that spearheads how everything's got. Like now, if you're an influencer, if you're an influencer and you're being told like this is what you need to do to engage, or you're a marketing thing, one of the things is like you need you need to have engagement, which is like you need to have familiar segments, so things that people will enjoy and be able to come back to,
things that people can latch on to,
and then also things that people can involve themselves in, and then if they feel they're a part of the show and stuff. And that you were doing that like back in 2000.
I am cursed to be before my time. Get no benefit out of it, and then move on. And then 4 years later, everyone's doing the same thing that I was suggesting or something. It's one of those things I found.
Like, I have such affinity for Radio Redux. I think for obvious reasons. Like, it's one of the first things. I mean, you were one of the first places, and Radio Redux was one of those venues that gave me a shout out in terms of what I was doing. You were one of the first places to acknowledge that we existed.
Well, that was again looking around the community, and there were folks that were doing some great work. I continue to say that Zone Zero was one of the best Sonic sites has ever been, and barely 10% of the community probably knows about it. But just from an archival point of view, they were light years ahead at the time. With Sonic Show, with what you were doing, it was a case of, hey, that's the next step. That's the next step from audio. It's exactly the same as the next step from radio, where it's just, oh yes, you're using sound to tell a picture. Let's actually have the picture.
Yeah.
You latched onto was it YouTube back then? Or was it Daily Motion first or something?
I think we hosted it ourselves. I think at the very beginning it was
it like Flash Video or something?
It was Flash Video Players, and I think
Flash Video Player. Rest in peace, Flash.
This was back when you could have a video podcast, and it was like you could have it on iTunes and play it on your iPod video if you were fancy enough to have one of those, or play it on the built-in iTunes player, and that was easy because it was hidden. Otherwise, it was like find it in this hidden treasure map of the FTP server.
But again, you were taking it into places, being damn entertaining as well. But you were taking it to places where, in hindsight, it's obvious where that it should have gone. But you were the one who was going, "Hey, look at this. It was not just look at what I can do. It's like, look at what we can do. Look at what we can all do."
Yeah,
and that was like super important. And you were still to this day are an absolute master at creating a community around you. TikTok sweets boy. I know.
You don't need to know that.
But you've got you've got that about you, and it was so good, and not many people were taking notice at the time, and it just made sense. Just go look, for those people that vaguely paid attention to me, look.
Yeah, and I think, and like we did for those of you who are listening who don't even know the Sonic Show or any of what we're talking about, back then, it was like a long format video show that I did, and it had seasons, and I want to say it was still within the first season, so within like the first like 10 or so episodes, I think it was episode 7 specifically, I don't know why that stuck in my head, we did a crossover episode, we did like a Radio Redux / the Sonic Show thing, and I remember at that point doing that, and in my head I was like, oh, I've made the big time now. It's like this is it. I have such fun memories of that time, and and that was a time when like Mario and Sonic were getting together for the first time in a game, things like that, and we didn't know what was,
Well, that was my first day at Sega. My literal first day at Sega, when I went there to do Sonic City, was the 6 weeks of can you make Sonic City not suck. I went in there and there was like, oh, excellent, I'm glad we can come to an agreement. Could you come through here, please? And I was literally sat down in an office, asked to sign this NDA immediately, and I was like, okay, can I read it? I was like, yes, you can read it, but we really recommend hurrying up. I was like, okay, so looked for it, signed it, and it's like, excellent. We're announcing Mario and Sonic in like 10 minutes. Here's a computer. Can you please go on here's a computer, we'll log you in, and can you just moderate the Sega forum while we do this announcement?
Right.
It's like, yeah, sure, you're sure. There's like, hey, wait, what do you mean you do Mario and Sonic? Oh, yes, it's at the Olympics. Why at the Olympics?
Yes.
You know?
I think that was everyone's initial reaction. And to
yes,
be fair,
that was everyone's initial reaction.
To this day, it's still, I think, the reaction. That reaction has ever changed.
At the same time, with wiser heads, we can see that it was the best way to have the pair of them was effectively a neutral venue, and that just randomly happened to be the Olympics. Also, it made Sega an absolute monster amount of money. So
yeah, it didn't hurt anyone, did it? So back to Radio Redux, Sonic Rex. The other thing I want to discuss is the Shadow Depository, because
the Shadow Depository, the thing that got me the most in trouble with Sega were really bizarrely, their reaction to that was really bizarre. But to explain to people what the Shadow Depository was, which then just became the Depository later on.
Yeah.
The Shadow Depository itself was just a pun on something from Farscape. Actually, there was a Shadow Depository in that, which was basically like a criminal bank, and I loved the idea that this website, technically about Shadow, we just call it that for the lols. But yeah, Depository was just there for like a collection of just media, official art, wallpapers, and things. Because even at that time, some of those older sites that are talking about in wistful tones nowadays by the older folks, long since gone, they were starting to die off, and we were starting to lose some of that ability to get the media. This is a time before Sonic Wiki Air and everything else, which
this is the thing I want to stress to everyone listening is because what we're describing is basically this is an archive of media, of content, of things.
It was an archive of media.
You need to really appreciate that the time that this was around, this wasn't a thing. There's like this.
No.
What it seems like such a commonplace idea now, like everything's archived and everything, like even stuff about my part, like I can find out everything I did in the last like 20 years, even if I didn't realize I consented to it. But like at that time, especially for like commercial media, like if you were a fan and you wanted to check something, like those sort of things didn't exist, and these things that's why these sort of depository
all
so
those
important.
Type of things were just deemed very throwaway.
Yeah,
but that we know nowadays, because anytime any other piece of old art or something comes out, is treated as this creative gem, because the community, specifically the Sonic community, has always been very whilst they've maybe not necessarily liked the games, also they have appreciated the creative process.
Yes.
In it, they've always appreciated, the craft that's gone into the music and the craft that's gone into, making these cutscene videos, or the voice actors. Mm-hmm. There was a lot. People of the Sonic community has been obsessing over voice actors, and this is somewhat more prevalent in recent times, obviously with Roger going and then coming back at the time of recording. But the Sonic community has been obsessing over the voice actor cast for decades. Even when there wasn't really much of a voice, they obsess about the design. They love going into absolutely everything. I saw a tweet this morning which was going into the design of Sonic. They paused the design of Sonic on this new trailer for whatever this game might be. That's totally not Sonic Rangers. But they paused it, and they said, look, Sonic's quills are a lot longer in this design, and people going, oh, and people like going about the design of the shoes and things like that. It's how the trailer was put together, as much as the usual frame by frame analysis of everything. So we needed somewhere for that to be, and TS has had a place, but it wasn't. It was the thing that kind of got left behind a lot, and was again one of those places where you need to know the link really more than anything else. And it was more behind the scenes. Radio Sega was around at that time, but you couldn't download anything, and it was only just audio. Retro was getting more on the case, but they were still very much a wiki, and their earlier version of the wiki was nowhere near the level that it is nowadays. So I just like the idea of just having this thing and just people having access to it, and that gained a lot of fans because I was able to hunt down stuff. I was very, very good at hunting down stuff, and I started to put together, bizarre as it seems, like a network of agents who were able to find stuff and would send stuff to me, and I'd say, could you have a look, an eye out for this? And they'd go, certainly, and then maybe come back in like 6 months and go, you never guess what I found. And I wouldn't remember, plus who are you? But there was people would send stuff to me. We started collating it in the depository, and but it was everything: sounds, fonts. Back in the day when you couldn't get the Sonic font, Nisa Sega Sonic, you couldn't get it anywhere. And it just became that the depository was was a great place, to the point where at it was been 2008, late 2008, the head of Sega Europe's creative services department comes to me and goes, because Sega were terrible at their archive, absolutely terrible. Fans would be mortified. I mean, this is why they lost the code for Sonic 1 and things like this. It's absolutely terrible. But they had discs and discs and discs and discs of the media, which wasn't organised in any way, shape, or form. And they're just and she came to me and said, have you got the art for this? And I think it was something to do with Heroes,
right?
Or do you know where you can get the art for or this art? And she showed me like a poster, and I was like, that render is from blank blankety blank blank blank. And she just looked at me like, how do you know this? And I was like, I'm a fan. I care about this stuff, and there's this place you can go where you can get all this stuff. Is there? And I showed her the depository, and it's like, you do this? And it's like, yeah, because I put it by character. And she's like, this is amazing. And Sonic Rex's Shadow Depository became the place where Sega Europe got all of their stuff, all of their archive stuff. I started getting requests from Sega Europe for stuff to go on the depository, which was really weird. And America used it too, and even Japan used it. That was the real funny thing when I was looking at the analytics, the statistics one day, and just it was like Sega Japan address downloading some very key Sonic assets. It was like,
I feel like that's still probably their approach to this day.
But yeah, it was just so funny, but it was so time consuming. It really, really was. There was no quick way of doing it. There was nothing that generated all the pages. It was, me going through and manually coding the tables and manually putting the links in and everything. It was just...
This is the thing. I think people need to appreciate as well that this is also a time where I feel like now anyone can build a website. Or I mean, to be fair, a lot of people don't need a website, but like back then, a lot of the stuff that was done, you had to do yourself. But despite all that, you did Radio Redux, which, as we said, was really was a first in terms of podcasting and Sonic podcasting. And really something you can Shadow Depository, which again, on the scale that was a first. It was really a change in the way that fan sites can be used.
I still get bitching about it. Where is it? Where is it? Why can't I get this anymore? Give over.
Why don't we take a quick break, and then when we come back, we can discuss one of the other things you were one of the first people to do, which was working at Sega. But one of the other things that you were one of the first of was one of the first examples of members of the community moving into an official capacity in Sonic.
And
I really want to know how that came about. Right.
So there's a few things here. So that sort of era, and again they're in this strange land compared to wherever it was now. The fans are now the creators for a lot of stuff, because you've got Christian and Evan and people of that note. At the time, I mean, Ian Flynn was from the fan base. Under the Potto name, he was from the fan base. And then there was me, and I came in entirely because of Sonic Rush Adventure. And one of those things that we actually talked about before we officially started recording, which was Sega's unerring ability to leak stuff via, obvious file names and things in the code of websites and what have you, or just not paying attention to what they're actually putting out.
Lack of oversight again.
Yeah, lack of oversight. So I was the Sonic community team, the Europe community team, had not long been formed, and the first Sonic community manager, which was Romney Broad, good old Rom, he went and started just trying to reach out to places, because he wasn't really familiar with Sonic. He landed the flagship brand, and goodness, he was at least going to have a look. And so we started having a chat back and forth. There was Shadow the Hedgehog Day on Sonic Stadium, and that was the first sort of cross-promotional type thing that occurred.
I remember that.
See the wondrous archive volume history of Summer of Sonic on YouTube for more details. And he started reaching out to people, and we started getting a little bit of back and forth. And Sven, I spoke to Sven first, and then Sven basically went, "Look, there's these people, this people, this people, this people, this people." What Sven didn't know was that Ron had already reached out to me, so Ron already knew who I was.
Yeah.
And there was a leak of Marine the Raccoon from Sonic Rush Adventure.
Right.
And Sonic Yoda, Lewis Clark,
yes, legend,
of the old Sonic Yoda website, which of course is nowadays Sega driven.
Yes.
He found it and put it up and just went, "Look, there's this art." But because of back in the day, Sonic Yoda was one of those sites that not many people went to, and it actually, whilst a few people in the know knew, it kind of hadn't gone anywhere from there. But it was only a matter of time.
Yes.
And so I knew, and Sven knew, and Ron knew. And there was this... Ron was asking around, and I said to him, "Look, I know Sonic Yoda from some of the community events that we've done, the early community events that we did." And I said, do you want me to speak to him? And he went, oh, would you? Yeah, sure. And I said, look, you'd probably take it down if you asked, but you'll want, mate, please, can you arrange something for Sonic Yoda? So that, because, it's not their fault that they found something that you guys screwed up with. So I basically I initially went, before we did anything, I went to bat for Sonic Yoda to go, hey, can they get something in return and if they do this? And they went, yes, we'll arrange something. I think it was like an exclusive interview in the end, which was good because that was kind of what I was angling for. And then I basically just negotiated it down. I negotiated a leaked asset being taken down, which I basically just went to Lewis that, could you do this? And I'm sort of asking on behalf of them.
Yeah.
That then they owe you, and also you've now become a contact with them.
Yes.
By this. So, and that's how that happened. Much later on, then they asked me about coming in and fixing up Sonic City, which was a difficult task in itself because I was given like I say, I think it was 6 weeks. I was done with my bit. 6 weeks or 4 weeks? I think it might have been 4 weeks actually. It was come in, fix up all the text, and they gave me 4 weeks. I was done after 2, and they weren't ready. Yeah. So I did all the stuff, like a whole bunch of expansion things, and then it was up to them to have the actual code ready, and they weren't ready. So I had to then go away for like 6 months, and then come back after that for another
6 months.
It was a ridiculous amount of time. It took them that long to get stuff up and running. But there was loads of political stuff with that, because one of the things that people right back at the beginning, where people found out that a fan was working for Sega, it didn't go down well. A lot of people didn't like that within the community. A little bit of it was jealousy. A little bit of it was, who's this guy? A little bit was that we don't want don't want our opinions affecting the brand so much. So one of the old things that I always remember is Tails' profile had a whole bunch of facts on it, and the problem was that they'd all been approved by Sonic Team, even the ones that were wrong. So it's very difficult to argue against Sonic Team having something wrong. It didn't set me in good standing from the get-go. So the thing that they had on there was I think you'll probably remember this. It was like the myth that in Sonic X, in the Spanish dub, Tails was a girl.
I seem to remember that.
And that was on Sonic City as one of the facts. Fake news before it was such.
Before that horrible turn.
And I was like, this is wrong, can I take this down? It's like, well, Sonic Team have approved it. Well, it's wrong, but they've approved it, so it must be true. It really isn't. And there was like a whole back and forth. And in the end, with a whole bunch of that stuff, I just took it down anyway, because they weren't paying much attention, so I took it down anyway. But I got blamed for that. It was like there was a bunch of people that blamed me for that text being there, and it was like, no, this is all the original stuff. It's like, oh no, look at this guy putting in like fan theories and stuff. It's like, oh god, what have I got myself into here?
It's interesting because it very much shows. I mean, I don't think fans have changed necessarily when new things come along. I think you're right that I think there was probably a few people where it stemmed from a bit of jealousy in terms of like, why them and not us?
Yeah. It's there was a few things over the years that were like, wow, it was like there was one of the Sega sites, but one of the guys there really hated me, and there was a lot of stuff that came up because I was friends with Lee, Bentley, and there was a number of comments which were frankly homophobic.
Yes, I can imagine.
Which is, very unlike the Sonic fan base. I've always been very proud of the fact that they seem extremely tolerant and always have been long before then it became
I would say, an extremely diverse fan base.
But there was, there were days, there were legitimately days where I was wondering what the heck I'd gotten into.
Was there ever any conflict with you? Because from my recollection, during your whole time with Sega Europe, Sonic Rex still going on. You know, and I don't remember you taking a huge step back from any of it. Was there ever I mean, there might not have been, but I feel like that would have caused some conflict, whether it be from
every other
Sega.
day.
Yeah.
Every other day.
Was that from Sega's end or fans' end or both?
Sega. There was a strange thing. We mentioned Radio Redux. One of the things that Radio Redux that became at one point was the unofficial official Sonic podcast. And that I was asked to put up a bunch of news for that. And the 2010 voice acting change for Colors and that era of games.
Yeah.
The big thing came out was the other idea was because I made the comment of it being like it's franchise. There was news coming. And it was like, it's franchise changing. And I did it. I said it in such a very obviously this is not way. And then it became front page news on Sonic Stadium. According to this official source, Radio Redux, AUK confirms franchise-changing news coming up. And I just looked at that and I went, "Father boy."
So then,
no, it wasn't him. It was Shadza. It was Shadza. It wasn't Dave. You're innocent. It was Shadza.
But then that sounds like Sega. The fact that you did have this podcast and this fan site. There was this
very weird atmosphere at my time at Sega. I didn't think much of it at the time, but since then, as you get, because you're all sort of surrounded by this dream, you're surrounded by this wondrous creative process, and being involved in that, and the honor of being involved in that. But over the years, I've become a little bit more cognizant of the fact that that was out of line. That was the word gaslighting didn't exist back then, but there was a heck of a lot of it. With Sega, you've got this thing where you've hired me as a fan doing a fan site because they're a fan doing a fan site to fill this position. And the reason I got in there was because somebody left and it was an opportunity to get me in the team, and I'm eternally grateful to James Shall for that, who's now gone off to head Secret Mode. Check them out. They're the new studio that's coming in by Sumo. And they're going to be doing like the publishing, not the publishing stuff, but the marketing and everything else for like jewels in the rough, diamonds in the rough type games. And one of the things that I kept bumping into constantly was the fact that I was a fan, and the idea that I cared about the project, the product, the brand, and what the fans thought of it, which is my job.
Yeah,
that really rubbed some people the wrong way. People didn't understand that. There was a lot of people that sad to say, there was a lot of people in that area who really didn't care. It was a lot more corporate back then. There was very little understanding, and what my 4 years there were pretty much doing was just educating people over and over and over again. Which is why when we got to 2011 and Generations, we had a lot more stuff that we could do. There was fan involvement, although they didn't even know it. We were in that position that was built up. But Sega had this thing where it was literally bipolar, and that's not for want of a better phrase. Honestly, it's one of the better. They were absolutely bipolar about me and Sonic Rex existing. One day they needed Sonic Rex to do something, or they needed me to do that as a fan. The next day, it's what do you know you're a fan? And the word that kept coming up over those 4 years was passion. And whenever somebody said, "Oh yeah, we acknowledge your passion," what they were actually was doing was like kind of putting down a thing. Passion became their byword for, Kevin's,
bless him,
worked up and excited about stuff again. Yeah, he's worked up and excited, but again, because there's so much here you can do. He's also the guy the first day you came in and asked what your brand plan was for the next 3 years, and you said you didn't have one. It was so. And I started getting a lot of. I ended up basically doing Sonic 24/7.
Yeah.
I sort of came in the evenings and did Sonic Rex stuff. Then my weekend was Sonic Rex stuff, and then my days were Sega and Sonic stuff. And the same people that would get angry and upset with me for doing SW and being a fan. Well, that was yeah. The people were sort of people upset about me being a fan and speaking for Sonic. But in actuality, I was one of 4 people in the company that could make an official statement without doing anything, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. The head of the brand could do it. The head of marketing could do it. The CEO could do it, and me. But
crazy.
there was just this thing where it continued, and at the same time as this, that I would come through the fan, there were other people that weren't happy with the fact that I hadn't somehow paid my dues, that I hadn't come through from QA.
I find that very interesting.
The people underneath were upset that I'd not come through via QA. The people above were upset was that I was a fan at all, because that was somehow a negative.
So you would say, for some people, that the groundwork that you've done, so to say, in terms of Sonic Rex, etc., and all the things within that wasn't acknowledged as working your way up in a different way.
No.
It's almost as if you're just a fan who came out of nowhere.
It was not a thing. It was very much a dismissive hand wave. Well, you did that, so what? I mean, I'm also the guy that's, every week putting around a report saying how much coverage his work has generated, which is completely outdoing the numbers of the actual marketing department for print. I'm the guy who's got the fans to be happy. This is sounding very poor me, I know, but it really was that at the time, and it's strange. Summer of Sonic.
Yes.
Summer of Sonic. What do you think my professional credit for Summer of Sonic is?
I'm trying to think if you had one.
Yeah, no, 0.
that was things I did, and now, yeah, you
0. It's very much deemed as I've not been ever involved in it, from Sega's point of view. Despite I was the only person working on it for Sega for years and years and years. Summer of Sonic really made me hated a lot of people. One of the things that was cut out of that history of Summer of Sonic was how, I had to pretty much go around and beg for the money.
Now I had to do
this. A lot of stuff, including like walking people's dogs and looking after people's babies when they were in the office, and trying to do deals, doing people's work for them. Basically, there was a number of games that I wasn't working on where I wrote the marketing plan for various people, so they didn't have to do it.
See, obviously, my experience. My experience with Summer of Sonic is obviously I was involved in the team, but obviously not at the level that you were. But I do recall in many conversations about like, we're trying to do this, but we're trying to, and I always found it interesting that you are, in terms of out of everyone in that room, you were the Sega person. In terms of you're the only person repping. You're officially repping. You are Sega in terms of the group of people. Everyone else isn't that. They're just enthusiasts, if you will. And the person from Sega was always like, we wanted this, but I'm just trying my hardest to convince people that it's worth the investment. We need this money, and it blew my mind that like the Sega guy is struggling to convince Sega that this thing is worth the money or worth any money.
Summer of Sonic success really didn't go down well. Summer of Sonic, the first 2 Summer of Sonics, succeeded despite Sega. It was a great advertisement. It was a great advertisement for everything that was going on.
Was it something that they felt reflected badly on them, or was it just the fact they felt like they missed out on an opportunity themselves?
I gave so many opportunities please get involved. Please get involved. If you've got a little game, a little Sega game, it's got no budget. Yeah. Let me take it there. You've got a whole bunch of infused Sega people who will go out and then say about it if you just give them the opportunity to do so. It was because it was this marketing success that was, for a lot of people, I mean, not everybody there, but there was people like Stephen McGarry, who's great and was always very supportive, but there was certainly other people there that when the next year Summer of Sonic came around, it was like, ugh, you're doing this again? I thought you've already done one.
That's
And
mine.
it
That's
was
mind
just
blowing
like,
to think.
it's just like you're going against that. And again, you're in that position where I'm having to tell the community guys no about stuff. And you were there. You probably remember this when we were having like the various, the chats in the forums and the online chats and what have you. When saying like, can you confirm this, or can you tell us about this, or tell us what game is going to be this? I was like, I'm just going, no, I can't. It's it's under wraps, and everyone getting really angry at me because I couldn't, because I wouldn't say anything. It was like, guys, it's my job.
Yeah.
You can't know. It's like, I want you guys to have NDAs so I can tell you, but they don't trust you. And then that somehow translated into, well, you're not telling us, so we can't trust you. And it's like, oh my God.
That leads me into another thought that I had, which was we discussed how your time, by being a fan and coming from the background that you did, caused these issues in your employment there. With certain people and stuff. Then
I should point out that there was an awful lot of very, very happy days.
Yes, it wasn't.
And getting to do really amazing things and experiences that I'll never forget.
And I feel like, and I think a lot of the things you've described today sound like, anyway, like it comes out of doing it again. It's having a fan involvement. At a professional level, that was something that was relatively new, so it was just like the ironing out of how does this dynamic work, how do you I think that's evolved a lot since then. But then somebody
wrote an article about it. Somebody actually, from another place entirely, nothing to do with the Sonic or Sega community at all, and somebody at the end of my tenure wrote an really really engaging, very thought-provoking article about community people that are in the video game industry professionally, and how that's the balance of being a fan versus and having that enthusiasm versus the realities of video gaming.
Yeah.
And one of the people, I think it was like 3 people I focused on. One of them was me, and I think the summary of it was like they didn't know how I'd done this.
If you have that side of it, and you mentioned obviously like us doing Summer of Sonics and such, and being like, why won't you tell us this, that, and the other? And it's because I physically can't. Do you?
I so wanted to, guys.
Do you feel that? So you have that one side of it, which was like this learning this new way of doing things in a professional manner, and the challenges that provided. But then on the fan side of things, was there any other point, I hope you can be as honest as you can, at any point on the fan side of it with your friends that you felt like, actually my time working in this professional manner on this subject that we're all fans of caused a disconnect between you and these peers you had in the community, because then you became this person who, like you said, wouldn't tell things and was being awkward because you were that was your employment, it was beyond your control. Did you ever feel that?
It was.
Or was it all...
there were times where there were times where it was all of a case of. There were various points where it was very obvious that it just wasn't working. Let's say. There were points when the community had with any community they will have issues with them, and there were times when I honestly didn't understand. I don't want to say the point of view, but it didn't kind of gel with the response. In terms of wondering when I was actually kind of done with Sonic, it was, I think. It was actually, I wasn't done with Sonic, but it was time to move on. Professionally, because I really feared getting pigeonholed and typecast, if you will, as the Sonic guy. And there was evidence to suggest that was starting to occur. And I was also aware that the economy was changing. So this is like 2010.
Yeah.
To 2011, and everything started to go down. and we're starting to lose people in the team. And I'm there because Sonic, which is great, but at the end of the day, it came to the point where I needed to sort of spread my wings a bit more, and I asked, okay, this will upset you. Okay. I don't know if I told you this story before. Okay. But so lots and lots of people were getting promoted. There was no, head of Sega committee. There was no senior person, because that was Martin, and Martin was then let go.
Yeah.
At which point I was expected to take over that job, and then by the end, I was basically doing 3 people's jobs and monitoring somebody else.
Yeah.
But I wanted to start moving up myself because I could see me standing still.
Yes.
And I want to know that I'm challenging. One of the things that drives me is you're challenging yourself, you're delivering stuff, you're improving stuff, and moved on. And there were signs that I kind of got. What I came in initially for was to help Sega understand the fans, and when you've got Azuka going, yes, we can go and poll the fans about their favourite levels, and we'll do that for Sonic Generations, and we'll forget the plan that we were going to do for the levels for that, because you're right, and it should be their decision, even though we can't say anything. That was the sign that I've kind of got that goal.
Yeah.
So I want to make myself more accessible. I want to make myself more, varied. I want to make myself, give myself a career path, because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, I think
there's nowhere above me.
Yeah.
There's nowhere above me. There's arguably nowhere below me, because the floor's being taken away from underneath me. And I asked a very senior person in the marketing team at Sega. I basically took them aside one day. Mm-hmm. I said, look, I'm not asking to be promoted or anything.
Yeah.
But there comes a point in time where, everyone else is moving up. I said, you yourself have moved up. I would like to start the process to get to a point where I can move up. So I said, I don't know what that would be. I don't know if that would be like an assistant brand manager or assistant marketing manager, or somewhere that's basically like a diagonal, as opposed to anything. Because, I want to do stuff. I've got a wife. I'm looking for maybe start a family. I want to do a bunch of other stuff. And, I think I've been here and proven myself enough that... So what do I have to do to basically start that process? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to sit with? Which is, I think, a very reasonable question.
Yeah, I think that's a natural question.
It's just like, I want to be better. I want to be better for you guys. That person laughed at me.
Shut
up. To my face, and then said, "Oh God, you're serious."
What? No, I don't know.
And then they, in so many words, basically said no, and then again, basically in so many words, said, "Someone like you."
This is as good as it gets.
Someone like you is not, that's not the path for you. Like, it's like that, huh? Well,
so basically saying there is no path for you. That's yeah. That's outrageous.
I also happened to stumble in on a meeting between some, again, senior people discussing about what they would do when they made me redundant, which was nice of them. So it was like, so there's no path up. You're going to make me redundant at some point, probably straight after the 20th anniversary stuff, because then my use to you is over.
Yeah.
And is going to be a case of, okay, so I'm going to start looking for somewhere else to work. Great example of that bipolarness. The second somebody found out that I was doing interviews at places, they were furious.
Really?
It's just like, yeah, and when I left, when it was agreed that, it's time to put an end to all this, one of the things that was like held against me by Sega, that I was or the insinuation that I was being disloyal because I was looking for another job when you're gonna make me redundant anyway, and you won't pay me any more money because you're paying me pretty much the same as I came in on, and won't pay any more.
That's a classic thing, though. It's a very...
Yeah.
The loyalty works one way.
What the hell? Yeah.
Be loyal to us, but we can't really
Very mafia.
It is. I've used to that work structure in previous jobs. So
Chili Dog Mafia for the win.
yeah. Gosh, that's a callback.
Can we have happier stuff?
Yes. Well,
please.
Oh, I was going to say, well, it does lead to a happier topic in my mind. But then the other thing I want to discuss is the end of Sonic Rap. Because this sort of thing happened, and then of course it transitioned to where you are now, which is last minute continue. So
no one cares about, but never mind.
I don't guess. I see some of your numbers. You do okay.
I really don't.
But that leads to another conversation. But before we move into that, I just want to say, like, so was the Sonic Rex closing? Was there always a plan of like, we're going to close Sonic Rex and we're going to move into this, or was there a point where you're like, I'm just going to close this?
No, there's never a plan for that. There's never a plan for that. What happened was, how much should I go into this? So there was that part of that era. We had Transform came out, and God bless you, Sumo Digital, for putting me back in the credits for that, because I got taken out. And Sumo Digital wouldn't have any of it and put me back in.
Good.
That's why I'm under the special thanks.
I mean,
it was nice that became a thing, and it was. So I had that, and then Lost World came along, and I was really excited for Lost World because Lost World was the first game I knew nothing about as a fan. So I was excited for that going on, but we had my kind of love for it had gone at that point, and I made a comment to Double Cross a while ago about it, which I think is pretty telling. Just like that, I loved this thing and it didn't love me,
right?
In any way, shape, or form. So we had that. We had Sonic 2011, which I loved. I still think it is the best Summer of Sonic. I know the others don't agree, but I think it is. And it was a lovely send-off for me personally. It was a nice little farewell. I was still going to be around. I'd done various articles saying that I'd still be around, but I'd already, prior to that, in 2010, said that 2011 would probably be my last one. And that was, again, a response to Sega basically not being happy with Summer of Sonic. And Summer of Sonic was absolutely hamstringing me, so I kind of had to get into the point where to force others to get involved in it, and to get myself in a position personally where I wasn't being seen negatively, which is absolutely mind-boggling, isn't it? This massive, humongous success, international fan convention, and it's seen as a detriment.
It's madness
by some people because it's a success. Anyway, luckily later years, like I said, 10, 11, it really got into its own in terms of people getting involved. And Nintendo, by the way, Nintendo turning up at 2010, causing all the problems that they did, but actually going, we're filming for the Wii channel.
Yes, I remember that.
Summer of Sonic. That was, I think, the one where they just suddenly went, oh, okay. So we have Nintendo to thank for a lot of stuff. So 2011 was great, and it was a great send-off, and I was really happy. I was in a really good place. My life was not in a very good place at all by the end of 2011. And then Sega threatened to sue me.
Right. Okay. I reckon that's a good time to take a quick break before we continue that conversation. Okay, so you're being sued. Continue.
This came out of complete left field. So I was going through. So I'm personally at my absolute lowest ebb. I'm going through divorce.
Yes.
Which is not good for anybody.
No.
I've had to move into this. Yeah. High five, fella. Dick Renisi survivors who killed here. But I've left the house, which I absolutely loved. With living there with the people, with my then wife and Blake Draco, Dusk nowadays, and we'd had Summer Sonic, and everyone was really happy with it and good and what have you. And then suddenly but health wise not doing well. I've got the debilitating head thing that I picked up as a happy 25th birthday present when somebody started somebody attacked me basically and started using my head as a football, which is why in later years I looked quite dishevelled. Was because of the eternal, literally everyday ongoing pain from cluster headaches. I was really bad place with that because it was kind of at its peak and it was bothering me day and night. And I moved into the spare bedroom of an ex-girlfriend until such times I could sort of get myself on track again because the economy had collapsed and there's no jobs anymore and I've got no money and so I'm living here. And I just randomly got in the post a letter from a lawyer saying, yes, this Sega are going to sue. We're going to sue you unless you agree to these terms and what have you. And I'm like, what?
That would
why? Like what? And it was such. We've gone to a sad thing again. But I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. But this is the truth behind the curtains. That was kind of a sad time. What happened was Transformed. The All Stars Racing Transformed. There was a thing that went out, a trailer that went out. Just generally advertising. And back in the day, it's entirely your fault, actually. Back in the day, because we put trailers on our channels, didn't we? SW had a good YouTube channel with a decent following.
Yeah.
And you watermarked your stuff.
I did.
And I never did. And I thought, it'd be nice if we watermarked that one. So I did it. And I put up because I saw it and I immediately went on the Sega press vault, downloaded it, got it, watermarked it, and put it up, and didn't think anything else about it.
And yeah, that's
because what have you, whatever.
Yeah.
What I didn't know was that those guys, the press vault people, had made a mistake and they'd put up the wrong trailer.
Oh.
So we had a situation where I got in. I literally was like the first person in, grabbed it before they took it down and then placed it. The trailer that I had mentioned the fact that it was coming to DS. I did not see this. It's not like it was a massive secret.
Yeah.
Everybody knew it was coming to DS. Everybody knew it was coming to DS. We were literally waiting for E3 to roll around, so this will give you an idea again of time when this was. E3 to roll around, so it could be announced.
Okay.
So, lo and behold, I get a message late at night from somebody. This is after I've already taken the trailer down because there was an error in the rendering, and I was literally in the process of redoing it.
Right.
Saying, did you know you've revealed that it's coming out on DS? And the honest answer is no, I did not know. And I was mortified.
It's another example of Sega leaking stuff.
Yeah. Oh no. This was my fault. Entirely, apparently. So I ended up having a conversation with this, and I was like, no. And they pointed me to Sonic Stadium, and also Retro, and also TSSE, where there are massive articles about it that are being picked up by everyone under the sun, which has got, which said, they've taken down the trailer, but we've got a print screen of this. Yes, we've got a print screen of this end slate with the Sonic Rex logo in the corner, watermarked.
No.
And Sumo did not blame me at all because I explained the situation and everything was fine. But I'm like, and Sega. I rang Sega as soon as I found out. I rang Sega and left a message on answering phone of some people that I trusted, and just went, "Look, you'll know this has happened. I didn't know this. This is. I got the press report. Did this. I'm absolutely mortified about it. I can go through with you what happened.
Yeah.
And you can look at the time indexes or whatever in the website for the press report, so you can see what this is and you can check what it is, and so it never happens again. Let me know if there's anything I can do, etc." So I reached out to Sega like twice and sent them, and I never got a call back. So I thought, obviously that was an E3 announcement.
Yes.
Not much of one, but it's an E3 announcement.
It was something.
So we had that, and the irony was that SW literally got no benefit out of that. Everybody else got all the traffic.
Say it, but you had taken it down. So.
We didn't even know it had happened, you know? And the trailer's down, so I'm not getting anything from that. Sega, it turns out, thought that I had deliberately leaked the knowledge that it was going on DS. And my initial thought when I found that out was, I think I know bigger and better secrets than the game that everyone knows is coming out on DS is coming out on DS.
Yeah, this multi-format game is coming out.
Yeah, this
on one of those
multi-format, multi-platform game is also coming to like PSP. Did it come out on PSP?
Vita.
Vita, yeah. It's also coming out on that. The one thing that's missing is DS, and it's like, we know it's coming out on DS because they've been doing really focusing on DS game.
Through habit, we know.
And I'm also the one person that's reported that's got no benefit out of it. So clearly, I've gone out for myself and deliberately leave this.
So they implied you're doing it for a more spiteful.
Yeah. So the letter said that I had hacked the press vault.
I don't remember it being particularly hard to get into.
Yeah, I hacked the press vault, with my login and password that I'd had for the previous 6 years. I went in and downloaded something that was up there for anybody to download and put it up. And that was what they were suggesting I had done. But the thing that was the kicker was that, again, this happened in pre-E3. I got this letter after Summer of Sonic 2011 was done.
A nice nail in there.
But it was quite well known that I wasn't in a good place after that. So they waited until I had done the Summer of Sonic stuff for 2011. And then they took that happiness away from me.
But
so
you got through it.
Yeah, we got through it. But there was nothing. But unsurprisingly, my love for Sonic had somewhat taken a rather massive hammering. And so Sonic, there was nothing coming out for Sonic at the time, and it was time to put it to bed. And LMC was going to be a professional thing. LMC was going to be the column of a lifestyle magazine for just game stuff. It was going to be part of a lifestyle magazine that was done by a Premiership footballer.
Okay.
And I went to a launch party for this thing that was all about living the life and stuff. And there was going to be this magazine of which Last Minute Continue was going to be the thing, which is why the early stuff was like some blogs and stuff.
Yeah.
Content. But they then disappeared one day and then started not responding to my emails. I was like, oh, okay. So I basically made Sonic Rex as a what if we weren't restrained by Sonic,
which I feel has, from my point of view, done wonders for you in terms of it just feels like it's, and I feel like a lot of Sonic creators, myself included, which is why I don't actively do like the video stuff I used to do, and that, the channel's being passed on. It's just I got to a point where I was like, I'm just not jaded as such for me, but I was just like, I've done everything I feel I can do. And if I continue to do this, it's because I'm in this sort of machine that's turning all the cogs, but I'm not passionate or interested in what I'm outputting. Whereas I feel like now the content you're creating, and the content you're creating now is because you are not held by this one franchise, as good as it's been, and we both, we still have, it will always have an impact on us, but like, you can say, all right, this game takes this actually interests me, this thing here, I'm going to go and do that, and so you can actually be led by what drives you rather than what shackles you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but that was reflected across the other stuff as well. I mean, whilst Sonic Rex became a once in a blue moon thing as a comic, but there was the aspect of Radio Redux became all music and not Sega Sonic. And then it ended up, coming to an end, and has since obviously restarted as an occasional item on Radio Sega. But you've also got, obviously the Let's Plays and the video content, and not Sega Sonic, which again has upset people. But it's where it needs to be for me. Unsurprisingly, it's where it needs to be for me. And we've even got the LMC comic now, which is again Sonic Rex without the shackles.
I'm happy to pat our own egos. We did quite a good job at it, and I think
There was a time when SW was putting in ridiculous numbers, but as you say, I'm far happier doing LMC in relative anonymity than I was doing SW. Being arguably successful.
And if you and that just makes me happy, because it means that the content you create is better, in my opinion. And it's and that's why I want to continue doing this podcast. And not other things.
Have you listened to any of the more recent Radio Episodes? Because they are light years ahead. If you get a chance, and just anybody who's like old bees like me and Jamie here. There's one which was done for Radio Sega's Opposite Day last year. There's actually an Opposite Week coming up again very, very soon, I think. Which was like Crisis on Infinite podcasts. And it was the whole joke for Opposite Week was that because I wasn't part of Radio Sega, I didn't really have anybody to do in terms of like another show. So the entire show is just me trying to find other avenues where I could like do the show. So I try and do Sonic Hour and then like start going for it, like some of it's like really dated badly. I try and do Turbo Drive Live, but Turbo won't have any of it. I try to do like various other bits like Mock the Geek and things like that, and like other obscure shows from the past, and just be sort of, well, no, I can't do that because I was in it, or I can't do that because it's not there. The highlight being, by the way, God Donny. When we actually do Opinion Zone briefly, but the joke being that now Donnie is the only one that can talk and has like ascended.
I love that.
Through all powerfulness. But that is so good, and that's kind of what I wanted to do initially. It just takes so long to get round to things nowadays, unfortunately.
We'll round off with two things that I want to hear.
Yeah,
which is one for people who are newer in like up and coming creators and who have barely even begun. If you, from your vast experience, what would be a leading piece of advice that they should take with them as they start their journey in the internet community?
If you want to be successful within it, if you want to be a success in this community of ours, look for a gap. Look for something that people aren't doing. Look for something that people aren't doing that you could get behind and infuse with, that you have ideas. Don't just steam in and just start doing stuff. Have a little thought about it first. Have a think about what you could do. Is it sustainable? And once you've done that, think about whether or not it will make you happy. You're not here to make a success of yourself or what have you. Arguably, you're probably actually going to be spotted quicker, because
I couldn't agree more.
Because it's obvious, that you, from that point of view, because then you are clearly doing it for the love of what have you, and you become more obvious. This is not to say that the group of people are, in any way fake or anything, but there is the character versus the person, and people latch onto the people a lot quicker than the character. The character will have a bigger shelf, or a shorter shelf life, and a bigger, spike in terms of engagement. But the person, you'll end up, if they hook onto the person, you'll end up having more successful, long-lasting, meaningful friendships and relationships outside.
And secondly, in your time as part of the Sonic community, this might be difficult, but if you could give me like just a highlight, like that one moment that you'd be like, this is a moment that could only have happened because I was part of the Sonic community, and I will cherish. Okay,
I would say, the thing that I cherish the most. I'm not going to say a personal, but I'm going to say from a. There are others which are very personal, but from a professional point of view, as well as a personal, I will say that the thing that always sticks in my mind is at SummerSlam 2011, and Izuka-san spotted me in like the stairwell behind the stage, and he stopped me and he wanted to talk to me, which was great because again Sega had this thing about me not contacting Sonic Team. There was trouble once because June was my friend. I got a dressing down because June was my friend, and I'd committed some sort of heinous crime of having this man be my friend. But so the whole interaction that SOE had, SOE didn't have because it was just like, no, you're not allowed. So the fact that Izuka-san wanted to speak to me and made a point of stopping me to do so was, in itself quite a thing, because it was like, oh, okay, you do know actually who I am and what I do. And he said some comments along the lines which indicated he did.
Yeah.
Which, again, is nice because it's nice to know that someone's paying attention to what you're trying to do. And we had a short conversation. And the gist of it was that he's speaking for Naka-san as well, which was great. And that he said that he loved it. He loved Summer of Sonic.
Oh, man.
He loved being there. He was actually kind of sad that he and Naka-san couldn't be out among the people. You remember the night before when we had like the practice session and Naka-san and Izuka-san came in and started like taking photos of stuff.
Yes.
And just like hanging out.
Yes.
They made a massive beeline for the merchandise cabinet and started talking about all the stuff there. And it was great. And me and T-Bird were really happy because it was like it's our stuff and they just want to see it. But he said that they wanted to be out there more because they had to be justified with all the media and stuff and what have you. They were kind of out there for like a little bit, and then it was like signings and other stuff. And they said they really liked being out among the fans, chatting to the fans, signing stuff, and enjoying the atmosphere, with them. And you could tell it meant something to him. You could tell that it had, because they were a little bit, wary beforehand, but they now understood. Izuka understood what that again, go back to that word again, passion. The passion of the Sonic fans and how important it was, and you could see how many people were actually behind the scenes of Summer of Sonic. All these people over the years that have done, that have always been a part of the team, like yourself. Like Vija and Earthheart and the Radio Sega guys and Lewis and just all those guys who just worked unceasingly hard and B-Man. There's so many people that I wish I could sort of convey, and you could see it in his eyes. You could see it in his eyes, the excitement of being there. And it was a testament to the hard work of everybody. But it just went to show that what we did with a fraction of the budget that Boom had, and we put on this goddamn amazing show. So that meant an awful lot to me, because that was just like, I thought the Facebook poll thing and actually him agreeing to that was like, yes, this is it, I've done it now. That, because it was just so against everything, that was it. That was the point. It was like, I can go now. It's done. I'm happy.
I don't think you could have picked. I don't think you could have picked a more happy.
No,
that brings me joy. Yeah. Thank you so much for spending this time.
It's been a
through the highs and the lows.
Some of the stuff has been sad stuff.
I
the hell stuff, but that's.
I really enjoyed it because I think it shows.
I
think it builds a very honest picture of things. I think, but it also shows lessons we've learned, and the fact that I think it's just there's just so much stuff in the community that is just like there's just so much context and things, and it's so rich. And I love hearing about it, and
it's one of those things that we have lost over the years. I think there's a lot of is context of the time and the decisions, and it pleases me, honest to God, hand on heart, it pleases me no end to see where Sega and Sonic are now in terms of their understanding of everything and their role within the community. Do I agree with everything that they do? No, but it's such a different atmosphere. You can tell at that company than where it was, and the community it's the norm for those young kids now in the community. This is normal, and it's exactly what it should have been all along.
Again, thank you, Kevin, so much for taking time to listen to this.
It's been an absolute treat talking to you as always, Jamie.
So, that was Kevin Eva, and can I just say thank you so much to Kevin Eva for spending the time to talk to me and go through everything right from the beginning. He has had such an interesting career, whether it be professionally or within the online fandom, and I'm so glad he took the time to go through it all, even the hard times as well as the good times. So thank you so much, Kevin. We really do appreciate it. If you guys want to check out Kevin and what he does, then you can go to his website, lastminutecontinue.com, and you can also find him on Twitter at lastminutecontinue, Twitch lastminutecontinue, YouTube guess that's right, it's lastminutecontinue. But he has also got a personal account as well if you wanted to just say hi. That's the Kevin Eva, EVA. So you can always check out his @ there. It's not a private account, I think, so I hope he doesn't mind me sharing that. But yeah, do check him out. Check out what he does. Check out Radio Redux as well. Radio Redux, REDUX. Yeah, I think I haven't got much more else to say. I hope you liked the chat. I hope you liked us discussing, the behind the scenes and times of old. Well, old in terms of internet relevancy, anyway. So if you want to hear more, do let me know. My @ is @Opinion Zone Show. Opinion Zone Show, all one word, on Twitter. Give us a follow, and if you're listening on any of the podcast apps, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, the other ones, if they have a rating system, please give us 5 stars. We would love to have a review as well, but even if you just rate us 5 stars, you don't understand how much it helps. The most recent reviews we have been getting are from Ireland, so thank you to everyone in Ireland who's been listening, and also thank you to everyone who's listening in Brazil, because we've been charting really high there. We're getting a lot of traffic from Brazil, so hello to everyone listening over there. Anyway guys, I'm gonna peace out for the day now. Thanks for listening to the Opinion Zone. We will be back soon with more interviews, chat and shenanigans. Until then, bye bye.